Hello, everybody. Let's start today's session. No matter where you are, how busy you were, at this moment, can we put aside everything else on the mind? Can mind not be occupied by anything? So the mind can have space to observe, to perceive directly, without any distortion from thoughts, which are always occupying the mind. When the mind is occupied by various contents, which are the product of thoughts, there's no space at all. The mind is trapped in endless reactions, interpretations, which are still the product of thoughts. Therefore, the mind is out of touch with the actual. To be in touch with the actual demands direct perception. But when the thoughts are so active, making the mind full, the human perception is suppressed and distorted, as it's taking place all over the world. Attending this session demands everybody perceive directly. Exert your human perception. Not think, speculate, imagine all the time. Perceiving is a part of the neural system. It is part of the function of the neuron cells. It is not something the ego can do. The ego is the product of the disordered thinking. It has nothing to do with perceiving. When the mind is perceiving, without any distortion from thoughts, the ego is completely absent. Therefore, to be able to perceive, one can do nothing proactively, but rather, what one can do is to observe and keep the mind never occupied by thoughts. Perceiving demands space. The space of the mind, which is never demarcated by thoughts. The space is not created by thoughts. The limited space of the thoughts is no space. The space means the mind not occupied by thoughts, any thinking pattern, free from all the traps created by thoughts. And that space is not touched by any thoughts. Therefore, the mind is capable of perceiving directly, clearly, precisely. And through that perception, the mind is able to gain insight into various issues of the living. And the insight dissolves all the issues. And all those things cannot be sought after. Because what can be sought after is still the egotistic end. When the mind is caught up in the direction, which can be a purpose, target, the mind is occupied. Obviously, isn't it? And in that occupation, there's no space. The direction becomes important. And billions of people in the world are trapped in various directions. With endless personal experiences, personal needs, preferences, and all that, opinions, judgment. And in that state of being occupied, the mind is conditioned, isn't it? Because thoughts are always running at the background, also the foreground, suppressing the perception, distorting the perception. Therefore, the mind is conditioned and oscillated by thoughts. Therefore, the mind becomes confused, utterly confused. And that conditioning manifests the continuity of the thoughts which breeds disorder of the mind. Conditioning, continuity, the ego are all the same thing. Pointing to the same thing. Can the mind perceive this directly? The mind is occupied by thoughts which suppress the perception and distort the perception. The mind, therefore, is conditioned to thoughts, creating the me in that conditioning. The me, which is the protagonist of this narrative created by thoughts, is the center finger of the continuity, isn't it? It moves from the past to the future, which are all the narratives. Put up by thoughts. Therefore, the mind lives in a make-believe world. Various theories, opinions, judgment, theories becomes all important in that living. But that state has nothing to do with clarity at all. That state is self-enhancing, self-oscillated, and self-centered. Which is the disconnection from humanity. That's the key factor of this deteriorating and degenerating world, isn't it? The mind is trapped in its own world, created by the disordered thinking. The mind is trapped in various thinking patterns. As now, the individualistic thinking is so dominating. And in that state of being isolated and the loneliness, there's no meaning of life. The whole neural system is resisting it. Which are manifested in various problems. Can we say that? In that isolation, pleasure seeking becomes all important. Fulfillment, satisfaction, gratification, because all dominating. In the hope of escaping from that horrible state, but in actuality, only perpetuating that horror of living. Can one observe all this without being influenced by anybody, including the speaker? Can one get insight into all those? When the mind has insight into this, there is immediate change of the mind. There's immediate action of the mind. It sees danger of the state of being occupied by thoughts. The danger of the indulgence with thoughts. Therefore, the mind feels urgent and eager to find out whether it is possible for the mind not be occupied by anything. At the same time, thoughts, when necessarily needed, can stay in the right place. When the mind says this, it is a great discovery, isn't it? The mind has given up all the illusions of finding solutions through thoughts. Technically, we can use thoughts to find solutions to solve various technical issues. Mechanically, the mind can reuse that thinking to the psyche, which cause problems. We must see the fact, get inside that thoughts can never provide any solutions to the issues of the psyche. When the thoughts are not, the solutions are. The solutions are beyond the thoughts. When one listens to this statement, one may feel, yeah, it is so. But one may find that one can't do it. Can one find out why cannot one do it? Is that because one is so dependent on thoughts in one's whole life? There's a deep involvement, entanglement of the neural cells with thoughts. In that state, one may logically understand the statement, but one cannot do it. But it doesn't mean that. It does not mean that it is not possible. Saying that one cannot do it, can one not draw a conclusion that it is impossible to do it? But rather, saying that one cannot do it now, but one is eager to find out why one cannot do it. That's to say, the mind is not caught up in any prejudgment or conclusions. Can the mind have that quality? Saying that it is not capable now, but it is still very interested and eager to find out why it cannot. Perhaps that exploration and the discovery, which demands one's diligence and care, can bring the possibility that exploration demands observation, careful penetration into various superficialities. Various things the mind has been conditioned to and accepted. That exploration demands doubt. not doubting everything, but doubt must be kept on a leash, but still doubt. We must have this diligence and patience to observe all the things that has been established. Without making trouble over the superficialities, the mind penetrates and feels things behind. So this complete observation with necessary doubt, questioning, reasoning, safeguarded by the human perception. It's freeing the mind from the entanglement with thoughts. The mind puts aside all the identities, vanities, pleasure seeking. Putting aside all the directions. So the mind has nowhere to go. When the mind has nowhere to go, there is energy, isn't it? As long as there's somewhere to go, the energy is dissipated in that direction, isn't it? When the mind has nowhere to go, nowhere to escape, the energy is no longer dissipated in any direction. Therefore, there's energy. And that energy penetrates all the superficialities. That energy penetrates all the superficialities, exploding from inside. Unfortunately, billions of people are trapped in various directions with endless pleasure seeking for fulfillment. So the mind keeps escaping. Energy being dissipated. Life is totally trapped, trapped. Life becomes dull, petty, ugly. Freshness demands energy. The converge of the energy. The converge of the energy means there's no dissipation of the energy. The mind no longer escapes. The mind voluntarily gives up all the directions. So the energy can explode, penetrating all the walls created by thoughts. Therefore, the mind is free from all the burdens. Without any burdens, the mind becomes utterly sensitive. Life becomes urgent because the mind has seen the danger, the absolute physical danger brought by thoughts with various patterns and disorders. When life has no burden at all, there's abundant energy, which manifests life itself. And such a living is always fresh because it has no patterns. The energy can be patterned or no patterned, but the energy is free of any patterns. Free energy is not trapped. Being trapped, the energy is violent. So can mind compound free energy with its gentleness and care, in which there's love and compassion. Can one compound that boundless love? Can one compound that boundless energy? Which is beyond all the me, that petty entity with its ugliness. Life is too short to be wasted in this way, trapped in thoughts and thinking patterns. The mind becomes petty, ugly, senile, and violent. Can the mind have the quality to initialize the fundamental change? To be totally out of this self-centered existence. That's the real challenge of living, isn't it? When the mind is able to confront this challenge, any other challenge in life is no longer a challenge. But without dealing with the fundamental one, life is trapped. And surrounded by endless challenges popping from the me, the self. So can the mind put aside all the thoughts, all the content. Be aware, be alert, and come back to all the sensations of neuron cells. Listen, look, feel, without being interfered, without being interfered with by thoughts. The mind puts aside all the directions. So the mind is in full attention. In full attention, there's no efforts. The mind has put aside all the efforts of concentrating. Without efforts to make direction, and without direction, all the senses of neuron cells, which are always functioning, are there. Can one stay with all the senses without being interfered with by thoughts, without translating into ideas or thoughts? So putting aside all the words, all the expressions, the mind only perceives, feels, knows through the lens of thoughts. There's no interpretation. There's only observation, where the observer is completely absent. The observation includes everything. All the senses and the movement of thoughts. And when the mind is doing that, it is not occupied by thoughts. Can you do it to verify it? So in the next 5 minutes, let's do it. Please do it. Verify it for yourself. All right, I think today's session is coming to an end.